They have a feature. They have a different types.
Islam. Islam. Let's rise and give honor before we get going. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Mother and Father of the universe.
Allah, the Mother and Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice. Allah is our protector.
Allah is our protector.
Our guide.
And
our salvation. By night. And by day. Through His holy prophet. Noble Ali.
Amen.
Islam Moors. April 3rd. We're gonna start with of course the readings that's supposed to be proclaimed every meeting according to our protocol. So January 15th.
That's something we weren't always doing, right?
Yeah, no. yeah, right. So, and it's just like that, just because it's just so much stuff that was hidden.
Yeah, I mean it's a process of revealing.
Right, exactly. Right, and we are the revealers of the light. Right. And then Masons say that they're the keepers of the light.
But I remember when you read that last time, so it should have been read at every meeting.
Yeah.
I realized there's a lot of meetings I went to.
Right.
Yeah. This being read.
Yeah. But then think about the meetings from 1929 when the Prophet died, right, till now. How many meetings it hasn't been read in? Because there were millions of members in the temple. So, oh yeah, it was a big deal.
Okay.
It was a big deal.
All right.
Between 1913 and 1929 in Chicago. Yeah, it was a big deal, you know. So January 15th, 1929, a warning from the Prophet to be read in every meeting. This original has been recorded from the Home Office of E. Muley Il, March 11th, 1929. I hereby inform all members that they must put an end to all radical and agitating speeches while on their jobs, homes, or on the public streets. We advocate peace and not destruction. Stop trying out your cards with the Europeans, for it causes confusion. There has been much confusion caused by members trying out their cards. The cards are for your salvation. Failure of obeying my orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members that seek to hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or to violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet, and if they lose confidence in their prophet, give up your card and button, cease wearing your turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. For this is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet Noble Ali. And if the Prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The Prophet is sending out a divine plea to all true Moorish Americans that they may do their part in protecting their Prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the Prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. So we have to ask the question that if Noble Ali said that this is the Moorish Divine and National Movement, right? What's the holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet that he's talking about in this thing that was supposed to be read in every meeting?
What is the movement?
Yeah, what is the holy and divine movement? Because he didn't say for this divine and national movement. He said for this a holy and divine movement.
So the question again is, what is
the holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet Noble Ali? because it's stated that he founded the Moorish Divine and National Movement, right? The Moorish Divine and National Movement of the world. And in this warning, he's not talking about the national side. He's talking about the divine side, right? Which is making the jurisdiction of the Moorish movement a lot more than just on this earth plane, because this is us proclaiming our nationality is a spiritual move on the big board of whatever they want to call it, matrix or whatever, right? Like that move that we make, that first move is supposed to be nationality, because that's going to determine where you go, what any other move that you make, right? So he opened up the floodgates of the Moorish Divine and National Movement and revealed that it's actually a spiritual movement. It's not just have our own plates and be able to have cards and say that we're Moors and show papers and write a writ and then get them to dismiss the case, and right? You know what I mean? Because what's the sense going to court, right? Getting the case dismissed and not putting it in your newspaper in order to show that this is the activity that's supposed to be going on. But they're gonna do that, get the case dismissed, and then sell that idea.
He's right.
They sell out the
Dirty
secret.
Moors,
They sell out the secret.
right?
You're saying what they're doing, and this is what Brother Tesla said was basically about taking this gift and
Right.
keeping it.
Exactly.
Keeping it hidden.
Right. Exactly.
So would the divine movement be Islamism? No.
Well, you can say yeah, right. The divine movement, that's a facet of it, right? You know, but ultimately that's really what it is. If we're gonna call it something,
that would be
right?
the divine.
That would be the divine side of it. That it's Islamism, and then that's our religion,
right.
But not religion as people out there say religion or their meaning of religion,
which is what we have been
taught to think is programmed to, right?
Which is
but the real religion, which is order, and then order is government and law and all that, right? That's what order is. That's why there's a show called Law and Order, because order and law are relative, right? And you can't have one without the other, right? So by him opening the perspective, it's only going to be adepts. It's only going to be people who study the prophet on a deeper perspective that would get that message out of this writing.
Right.
Which is why he or she is able to say, well, we're not going to talk about this. We'll just put this over here. And we'll start honors to the prophet, honors to Allah, and then go into whatever they're supposed to do without reading the thing that he said read before every meeting.
But what I realize is there's such a wealth of information and such a wealth, like this is such a change on a total level that really this kind of stuff for the people that want to, you can pick your focus.
Most definitely.
So
that's the purpose of it.
Well, that's right, but the true ones who are bringing the light will pick the right purpose.
Right.
The other ones are going to be looking for everything else.
Exactly. Right. And finding everything else.
Right.
And going deeper into whatever they decide to go
into.
Ultimately,
though, if you realize if they're not going on the right path, then they're going on the wrong path.
Exactly.
Which means that it's definitely leading towards that other sect of people.
Right. Yeah. Right. So that was the January 15th writing, right? And then March 18th, 1929. So January 15th, 1929,
Mm-hmm.
he said, okay, read this
Mm-hmm.
every meeting.
So we're almost, if we look at it, it was January, just 2 months ago.
Right.
And now we're looking now into March.
Okay, right?
Right.
Yeah,
So 2
okay,
months
yeah,
later,
let's look at it like that.
Yeah.
Okay, right? So he just came out January 15th,
and read this
2012, right?
Right.
And sent this letter
to
from
everyone.
prison.
Right.
He said, hey, you guys have to read this.
Right.
Right? And it was given to them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And they just held it.
Oh.
And it says to be read in every meeting.
Yeah. I'll get you to read it again, but what I realized what the meeting says is if you're not going to stop trying out your cards, that's the basis of it, if you're not going to try and be part of this divine movement,
Right.
you may as well give it all up.
Right.
You may as well hand your stuff
hand
back.
it in. Yeah.
Hand your stuff back.
Yeah. And
this
go
is
back to
probably
that.
because
Go back to that state.
and this is because at this point he had realized what was going on.
So this is 1929.
This
is the
end
beginning of the year when it was going to happen.
Right.
That he already knew that, yeah, you know, came out the womb that, oh,
it's coming down now.
okay, I have 29 years.
Right.
to get some stuff done.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? Right.
Okay, so now we move
Right,
fast
so
forward to
yeah,
March.
so we move fast forward to March 18th, just passed because we're in
Wow.
April right now.
That's right.
Yeah, fam. Peace God, Islam. Right, March 18th, 1929. Islam, I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement by now, by the same people of our side of the nation that claim it was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they themselves may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and the uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the last few days. And that was March 29.
So the impression I get then, it's funny that I'm seeing this again for the first time, that basically at this point he's locked away, right? He's been wrongfully accused of something, right? And this is the time when he's in jail for this murder.
Right. That either in jail or before he went to jail.
I see.
Or before, like, but
right
this is where,
this is right around
yeah, the climax of,
and what he's probably
right?
realizing is that these different sects that have these traders who come into the movement, because finance tends to sort of generate things.
Right.
Well, finance or energy tends to
Right.
generate things. He's realized that he's got all these different pawns trying to pull this group apart.
Right.
And so what he's saying is, I still need more energy
Yeah.
to sort of pull this together,
together.
because at this point I've got a number of these traders who are in there, and people are listening to people, you know, and
Right.
your natural propensity, if someone's walking away with a bucket of money, your natural propensity is to get up and sort of walk,
Yeah.
sort of after them. So this is what he's then sort of saying to us again, right?
Yeah.
Or at least pointing out to us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other.
Yeah, the word divine, I keep that, he always talked about the divine and national movement.
Mm.
And when you look at the divine, it talks about how it has to do with being holy and, ordained, etc. But it also talks about the root of the word coming from divinate, which is the French of to see or to foresee, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about the truth, if you just use the word truth, you can only actually address something that's either present or past, right?
Yeah.
But when you talk about the divine truth, this man is talking about how he's a prophet. So although the truth might appear one way to most people by looking at just the truth itself, he's talking about the divine truth, which might be it is a whole different ballgame. This man knew what was going down, what was going to happen, and he could even foresee what was going to happen 100 years in the future.
Yeah.
Which book is it? Is this the Black's Law or just
This dictionary here?
Just
It's the regular.
And but what kind is it?
This is
There, at some point, you need to get to. I realize the dictionary that I'm. But we can figure it out later. I just wanted to.
yeah.
It's okay.
This is New Webster's Dictionary of the English Language, Deluxe Encyclopedic Edition, copyright
It's gotta be old. Right?
84.
Okay, so
So it's not too old. You know, this is modern. But even in this modern thing, right, it's gonna tell you. Divine. Latin, divinus, divine, religious, divinely inspired, godlike. Divos, divine, a deity or divinity, pertaining to God or to a heathen deity or false god, partaking of the nature of God, godlike, heavenly, sacred, holy, excellent in the highest degree, relating to divinity or theology, very delightful, wonderful, a minister of the gospel, a priest, a clergyman, a theologian, divine, divining, Latin divino, to foretell, to predict, to prognosticate, to conjecture, to guess, to use or practice divination, to guess, to prophecy.
I want to just. Well, there's two interesting things there. One interesting, one of those definitions says it's false.
Yeah, what is that part of that? Right, pertaining to God or to a heathen deity or false god.
So in a sense, it ties in almost the fact that that part of that could be something not even true.
Yeah, could be some fake dude.
Right.
Saying that, oh yeah, my name is Prophet Noble Juwali and you need to proclaim your nationality and whatever. But if you're a false prophet,
no,
I'm not going. No, because people are going to go there, just like you brought it up. Okay. People are going to bring that up and try to use that to say that, oh well, no, he's a false prophet. The dictionary, the same dictionary that you say is the Moors means whatever.
But I want to bring that up because I'm wondering. That's why I asked about the date of the dictionary.
Right.
I have this one from a radio date, which is 2010, and it's like this is the wrong dictionary to have.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's why I was going to ask you, what is its definition for, let's say, black? Because if you could find a tie-in, because at this point, this could just all be, they could be giving you, they say in the Bible, the devil hides in a lake of truth in one eye or something, right? So in essence, you read that, most of those things are telling you everything positive.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's that one part.
But there's that, and then you being able to pick that up and extract it is what makes it pure again.
That's right.
Because somebody had to tamper with it for them to put only one thing negative about divine.
Right.
One thing, like you couldn't put a couple things in there to try to, like you have all these things that are positive and then there's one negative thing. And everybody's going to blow past all the positive things and just focus on that negative thing.
But it's not even negative when you break it down.
When you really break it down.
Because they're talking about heathens. And if you have heathens, they ain't such bad cats after all. And false gods. And who's to determine which gods are false? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So with having the correct perspective of Noble Drawley and what he brought, right? We can really see how being part of this is beneficial to our survival, really and truly, right? So what I wanted to touch on a little bit was
just to interject perhaps. There's two readings with the two readings. There's two other ones with the two readings that you need to.
Yeah, that should be read every meeting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then if it's not being read, it's for the Moors to say, "Oh, excuse me,
Yes.
Grand Sheik, you forgot to read that thing."
Yes. Yes.
No, I just need to.
Right? And then I'm supposed to be like, yeah, I'm not supposed to be like, oh no, we're not reading that today. We have some more important things to deal with because we can't read. Once you hear those kind of talks, you already know. You know what I mean? Right? Kick me out immediately. Right? So this is Wise, Concise Trustee Handbook, a guide to the administration of an express trust under the common law, functioning under the general law merchant, by Carlton Albert Weiss, second edition, 2008. And we'll just go to the introduction. This handbook is about the administration of express trusts created under the original American common law and functioning within the unique system of commerce in the American states, i.e., the general law merchant, as it stands in the 21st century America. Now, a general law merchant is embraced under general common law, the original and unique system of commercial law in the American states, in which there is no commerce regulation of express trusts except in connection with income derived from corporate stock and physical franchises under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 and 3 of the Constitution. See William A. Fletcher, The General Common Law, and Section 34 of the Judiciary Act of 1789. So I stopped there because when the term common law is usually mentioned, it's always thought about that originated in Europe, right? That was the first, because those were the first people that called it something. Like they called it common law. So, you know, just like they jack the energy of everything else that we did, right? They jack that energy. This is how the sovereigns, this is what the sovereigns are using to say that they can be over here and do the things that they do, like the European sovereign do, right? Okay. So the European or Caucasian or the other side of the common law, right, that the sovereign people use, is acknowledged as from Europe, like that particular perspective of common law, right? This is saying American common law, right? So common law is the common theme, and then the jurisdiction of the theme is, you know, European or American, right? So under American, a native or inhabitant of America, originally a member of the Aboriginal American in brackets Indian race, later a person born or resident in America, especially a citizen of the U.S. Right. So the administration of express trust was created under the original American common law. And the American common law, if you look up American is a native or inhabitant of America, originally a member of the Aboriginal American race.
So that's probably the most pure part of that thing. Once they get to Indian, they're already starting to
exactly right,
starting to put their
little stuff in there, right? But that's not what it's about.
No, I know.
Yeah, it's about that it's a native. Noble Drew Ali was a native of America, right?
But then what I find interesting is, and this is a question that just came to me. So if one of these Europeans is born here in the Americas,
yeah,
do they then become native to? No, I guess not.
No, because they're European.
That's right, because it doesn't matter.
No matter where they're born,
their nationality still happens.
Exactly. Right. And then, and right after that, you just put a period.
Yeah.
So then people are going to try to,
So I have another
that's
question.
where they go back to.
Maybe this is all off, but you know, I told you I went to this movie with my mom
Right.
on the weekend. So I'm talking to her about this group, and she's probably be showing up one time soon. She teaches Black history.
Yeah.
And so then I said, well, listen, this is all a lie. You've been here. I said, have you traced even where you come from? She's like, you can take your DNA and send it off to this company in the States.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's traced herself somewhere back to some areas in Sudan and somewhere else. And I started to think, I started to get all a little hot. And I was like, what does this mean now? Because that's why I asked the question. Does this mean now that I'm not tied to this land? Even though I know that I guess you're over there too. Right?
Exactly. And then you just put a period after that.
Okay. So that's it. All right, thank you. That's what I felt.
Because that's what it is.
Well, I hope
Because that's what it
Yeah.
is. You know what I mean? If that's what it is, like if you come from Sudan, cool. Like nothing's not wrong with the Sudan. You know what I mean? Like those are
I
our
felt
people.
a lot better coming from here, though. I felt the
You know what I'm
argument
saying? You know what I
I've
mean?
been having my issues with those.
Even over there, you're still Moors over there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
But I also realized that at least 2 generations from me have been born here.
Yeah.
My mother and my
Right.
and my grandmother.
Yeah.
Who knows even before that? Right?
Yeah.
Who knows how far back? That
Okay.
And then what I thought to myself was, what if that's them only tracing it back then? Who's to say if they were to actually give us our due, whether that tracing would come back to here?
Okay.
Right?
Okay, right.
Because like you're saying, originally we were all
Right. But the America before was the noun.
okay.
Right? So American, noun was a native member of, right?
And now I'm doing a description or a
Be
place.
like actual what,
Place.
yeah,
Yeah,
right?
okay, go on.
Person, place, thing,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Or idea. And then now, American, this is adjective now.
Which is describing.
This is describing,
Right.
right? What an American is. So if you look at it as American as the noun,
So
then
but that term of citizen is them putting their spin on it,
exactly,
trying to then.
because a citizen can't be an American.
That's right, because what they're
Because a
trying to
citizen
do,
has to be
they're trying to tie themselves.
tied himself.
And if you come and read this, you think,
Right.
okay,
You
you know,
think that will, exactly.
Okay, go on.
So American. A. From Americus Vespucius. Amerigo Vespucci. 1451 to 1512. Italian merchant and adventurer. Of or pertaining to either continent of America. Often of or pertaining to the U.S. Also, noting or pertaining to the so-called red race, characterized by a reddish or brownish skin, dark eyes, black hair, and prominent cheekbones, and embracing the Aborigines of North and South America, sometimes excluding Eskimos, known as American Indians. Islam, right? Known as American Indians.
So wait, sorry, because I got a little, it's a bit sidetracked there, but it starts off by talking about some Italian fellow,
Yeah, right? Amerigo Vespucci.
right, who says, so sorry, if you could just read it.
Right, okay, yeah.
So,
From Amerigus Vespucius. Amerigo Vespucci. 1451 to 1512.
which if you think about it, sorry to interrupt, this is just before Christopher Columbus
Right.
is here. So this guy now
Yeah.
is saying,
Right, he was an adventurer.
right,
Right? Italian merchant and adventurer.
saying that,
Right? No, that's not, that's just,
that's just,
American comes from his name too.
oh, they're using that as the adjective in terms of saying that's a describing, because didn't you say start this off by saying American, the adjective?
Yeah, right. This is the adjective. So when they use American as an adjective,
It's a descriptive.
it's a descriptive, but this is where the
That
idea
came from.
of
Okay,
it came from.
which is
So
okay.
one of them is Amerigo Vespucci.
Right, so some
So
Italian.
some Italian fellow, right?
Okay.
That they
so-
say his name. That's the reason why the place is called America.
Right.
Is named after him.
Okay, so that
Right?
again is,
So that's a story.
and
about how it-
that's the first story that we're
Right.
doing.
Right. right? That's the first story.
Right.
But don't forget, that's under the adjective,
Right.
which is subordinate to the noun.
That's right. Okay.
So it still doesn't really have power because
Right.
it's really about the noun.
But interesting enough, if you look at the book, if you look
It's not.
at the book, the American adjective comes before American the noun. Right, before you're
Right. Yeah.
Right?
The
If I'm looking
American.
down for American, right?
Right.
That's the
Yeah.
first
The
description
first
I get.
description that you
And
get.
if I'm not smart enough to see adjective,
Yeah.
then I'm already up in there thinking it's some Italian.
That's right. Exactly.
Well,
Right.
they did the same thing with Africa.
Exactly. Yeah. Did the same thing with Africa and everything else that day. Yeah. There's a theme.
Okay.
There's a theme.
So then the
Right.
next adjective is saying that it's from the red race.
Right. And then the next adjective is saying that's one, which that's because red is describing how it looks and whatever. So, right.
Okay.
Right. Like logically, but those people aren't gonna say that they're the brown people or the red people.
Right.
They're gonna say, "Well, I'm American."
That's right.
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 I'm American.
Yeah.
American Indian or American tribe or whatever. You know what I mean? Right? So, so this handbook is about the administration of express trust created under the original American common law and functioning within the unique system of commerce in the American states, i.e. the general law merchant as it stands in 21st century America. All in all, the author's objective of this handbook is to devise a simple guide with clearly outlined methods and sample forms for the effective handling of affairs of express trust, while also showing the many options for growth and prosperity and profound protections afforded by express trust when created and administered properly. It will be admitted by all honest and learned lawyers, as it once was when a lawyer, by definition, was learned in law, that the express trust, especially one created with proper care to its instruments, is a far superior form of security or organization in general for individuals who desire to exercise their natural rights. Trust basics. First, it must be understood that any trust, regardless of the many designations applied to them, is, in its most basic sense, a property interest held by one person, the trustee, at the request of another, the settlor, for the benefit of a third party, the beneficiary. The classification applied to a trust is based primarily upon its mode of creation, in which it may be created either by act of a party or by operation of the law. In the case of the former, trusts are divided into two types, express and implied. Express trust, and this is Alfred D. Chandler, Esquire, in a report submitted to the tax commissioners of Massachusetts on unincorporated associations. Express trust. Put the legal estate entirely in one or more persons, while others have a beneficial interest in and out of the same, but are neither partners nor agents. This simple, adequate common law right, any person or group of persons sui juris may exercise. The trustees issue certificates of beneficial and capital interest divided into shares, as well as issuing bonds and other obligations as freely as they open a bank account, have a passbook, and draw and circulate checks, or make whatever contractual relations are allowed to persons as a natural right. What becomes clear from this definition is that the express trust is not merely a property interest held by one for the benefit of another, like any basic trust. Rather, it is a trust created by private contract for the holding of a divisible property interest, wherein the trustee is empowered by the settlor to do for a beneficiary of his, the trustees, choosing whatever he may do for himself as an individual sui juris. As a general proposition, it may be asserted that one who creates a trust may mold it into whatever form he pleases, and that whatever one may lawfully do himself, he may authorize another to do for him. Doing so requires no benefit, privilege, or franchise from any government or other outside party, and therefore the parties owe no duty to any government or other outside party to the extent that no common law criminal or civil wrong is the purpose of the contract. And then it has a definition for sui juris in the footnotes. This is defined as of his own right, not under any legal disability or the power of another or guardianship, having capacity to manage one's own affairs, not under legal disability of act for oneself. And that's Black's Law Dictionary, 1891, first edition, page 1135. Okay? So being sui juris is being able to manage one's own affairs. And Noble Drew Ali said that he came in order to get us to take our place amongst the affairs of men and act civilized, right? And be responsible.
It almost sounds as though from the things that you're reading, that in cases where people don't act on their own and they're not sui juris, it's almost, when you hire lawyers to do things,
right?
It's almost as though you aren't capable of doing it yourself.
Right.
Like you have to have someone act on your behalf.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Because they've got us believing this, like they got us believing everything else. That if you want to do certain things, you got to hire this guy to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And keep the machine going to benefit someone else off of whatever it is that actually belongs to you.
Yeah.
You know?
I would like to go back to where this would have started. How did the U.S. become the trustee? Because, from the basics of trust, it's created, okay, so, and this would go back before Drew Ali.
Right.
Because he came to get you out of this.
Right.
So, I guess, okay, let's even if we say we go to the mandate, to where, who was it, Sultan or someone at that form gave
for the Europeans to have the land and all
the
that.
mandate to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I think that's how the Treaty of Friendship and Peace.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I'm just reading it today.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of
the whole arrangement, the contract.
The part that was part of that.
Yeah.
That
Where
I
they
think,
come into power.
well, I think that that was.
But that's for them. That's still stuff to govern themselves, not to govern the people of the land or the land even.
Yeah, no, that has nothing to do with the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people put that on them so that they can, because the people already, like I was saying in the introduction, the people already had an American common law system.
Exactly.
That was running.
So that's why I'm listening to this. I'm trying to see where this would have happened. How did they become the trustee? Because that's the position we're in, right? Aren't they? Who's the trustee right now? I would say it would be the U.S. corporation.
Well, who's the trustee in the sense of
in the when you read the trust basics.
Yeah.
At the beginning, it's
the property interest held.
First, there's a person who creates the trust.
The property interest held by one person, the trustee, at the request of another, the settler. Okay. For the benefit of a third party, the beneficiary.
Yeah. Okay. So there's three.
Yeah. So they're playing all. They're playing all three of those parts.
They're playing all three parts.
Yes. Because that's the democracy.
Where does the Moors? Because I was trying to. Yeah. Well, if they're playing all three parts, it really.
Because don't forget that's a separate jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Them playing all three parts. Being the trustee and being the beneficiary and being right.
Well, this is where I say when I get back to the treaty.
And the word settler, who
Yeah, I don't have the
Would
blacks
that
law
be-
here, but
Like, yeah, I
No,
know
it
they
was-
would have to get into
well,
but
that's the okay.
the
So
person who created the trust.
property
Or-
interests held by one person
okay, so the
at the
trustee
request of another. So the settler is the one
holding the
who's
property, right?
holding it.
Yeah,
The settler is the main person.
yeah, he's
Right,
basically
yeah.
in power right
Yeah,
now.
and then the trustee is the
There's
person,
the person
under
who created it.
the person who the settler says
I'll hold it for you.
you hold this for me,
Okay, yeah, okay,
right?
yeah,
The trustee is the one that the settler says you hold this,
yeah.
but the
So-
settler is only giving that to the
Okay,
trustee
so like
because there's beneficiaries that are gonna get something from it.
yeah, well, like let's say what I'm trying to make it is like if I can put everything I can together in a sense is that okay? Let's say the Moorish Empire is falling, so like that's where they would
Yeah, became the
Given
trustees,
them-
right? Yeah,
and they've
yeah,
given them
Yeah.
the mandate,
Right.
like
Yeah.
hold on to this,
yeah,
and
exactly,
our people is the beneficiary,
exactly,
would be us,
right, exactly.
but that's not what it is.
Well, it
But
is
it
that,
is that, but
It
it's,
is that,
but
but-
they've taken all three positions,
right?
So
They've taken all three positions.
As well as what they've done is they have blinded us, if not cut us out, from knowing this.
Yeah.
Which is
Right.
Which
But
is
then that's the whole thing about no withdrawal income, and the importance of that individual
Mhm.
that came with the key.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he was connected to the family that sued the U.S.
Yeah.
Right? That one land.
Mhm.
So it's not even like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like they can't argue with him because he's part of the family.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And then that's the whole thing with that we were talking about, that, the class action.
yeah,
Because what happens to one happens to all. So if you have 50 million people
yeah,
and one guy gets, then all those people are on it.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just doing that
Right.
class action.
Yeah, then-
yeah,
Right? Same thing. You know? So what, like, exactly what you're,
I'm trying to figure out. I guess I'm
'Cause
trying to
remember,
figure
the
out
mandate's
how
up.
do we get exactly?
yeah,
But they're
the
still
mandate's
playing
up.
all three roles.
Yeah,
So I'm
but
trying to figure out how we get into
But they're playing,
our positions.
they're playing all three roles by design.
Yeah,
Like, that's not really how it's supposed to run.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Like, you
But
know,
it's
they-
run like that because,
People
the
don't
psychic
know.
war. Yeah.
yeah,
They have these guys saying that they're black and Negro and you know what I mean? Like all these labels,
yeah,
right? And
So the
then
co-op-
this one group of people over here that's really what it's just like in Jamaica with the Maroons, and the Maroons are just in the corner, and don't pay attention to those guys, they're just outcasts, and what I'm
Yeah.
saying, whatever, but they're going up and down and doing stuff just like everybody else. They straight say that, yeah, we don't pay tax or nothing like that.
yeah.
Like, why do we have to, in our own land?
Mhm.
But all the other Jamaicans aren't like, hey, like,
Yeah, let me check it out.
like, hold on a second. You know what I mean? What do you mean? You look like me. Yeah, like I'm your cousin or whatever.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
But the cousin's saying that he's a Maroon, and then the other cousin's like, I'm Jamaican.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know where I'm getting from what the brother said about who's the trustee and how does this whole thing work? The way I understand it, and I could be wrong because I'm just putting the pieces together. Really,
No, we all are.
everything that we established, they usurped and they changed. We had a republic, they come with democracy.
Yeah.
We had trust, they come with corporation.
Yeah.
So even when we're talking, we're wondering who the trustee is right now. I don't even think it's about trustee with these people. I
Right.
think it's about the fact that they are a corporation,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And they've created corporations with all of us as well.
They're taking us out of that trustee position.
Exactly.
As a corporate entity.
That's
Right.
the whole thing. So, and this is why when the prophet said, "Declare your nationality," it's like you're on this side of the fence, and when you declare, you become on that side of the fence, and it's a whole different world that you're living
Yep.
in. After
That's
that.
right.
Exactly. It
That's
might be.
what I understand
yeah,
from learning about these trusts so far. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Also too,
But that's yeah. But I would. It's still. I guess the issue would be numbers, because like how there's us small numbers who will nationalize, but the majority, which is still our people,
Yeah.
are still on that side of the fence.
Yeah.
And that's why the corporation, even though we stand up with whatever and say, try to put our rights in place and act accordingly, the corporation still tries to do what they want with us,
Of course.
like as if we're still on the other side of the fence.
Right.
And that's the situation that we're trying to like overcome here. Like it's very hard without the numbers.
We need the numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
But how's the numbers gonna come if we don't go get them?
Yeah,
That's the only way numbers are coming.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
like we can like it's just that we've been out there and did that,
Yeah.
and people don't come. Why we just say, okay, you know what, man, like, whatever. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
put up a little Facebook thing, and whoever sees it, then they tune in. If not, then whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
You know,
Done my part.
I done my part. Like
Yeah.
but what I sensed
You know?
is when I was watching one of those Taj CDs, and he was talking about basically when the numbers are small enough, we can control us. So when the numbers get to
Yeah.
the point where things
Right.
start to fold in on themselves, that's where we have to get to. But I also see it being a separation on an economic level. You've got the people that are doing well in this said society.
Yeah.
Of our melanin, our people. They're playing the game, and so they're happy.
Yeah.
They're succeeding.
Yeah.
And then you've got the other ones on the other side who financially aren't doing well.
Right.
And they're just trapped, and they don't feel they have any power. Right? So I sort of sense that it's trying to educate the ones who are financially have the finances, which is what you're probably needing more of, right, to continue to grow. Versus, if you go into places where
that would be ideal.
I know,
Yeah,
but that's
that
where
would
I
be
sort of
ideal.
sense myself because I'm in occupied territory. I'm
Yeah.
saying, how can I
But
turn these
I
people?
rather like I would rather get
the true ones?
the man in the gutter
I agree.
than the guy who has, because the guy in the gutter has nothing to lose. He'll go all out. Like he's not gonna care.
No,
He's gonna go all out.
And then
I agree.
You know.
I also think too that those who are well off financially
Yeah,
right now,
should be hit up too.
fiat money.
Straight. Like,
But
they
I
should get
feel
hit up.
I feel they already know, but they choose a side. Like I
Yeah.
feel they know. Like
No.
there's no way they don't know to me.
They don't
Well, they know
Like,
something.
know all
I don't
of
know.
this.
I don't know if they know all of this. 'Cause I talked to them.
I think they know.
I don't know.
It's
I talked
too
to them.
many. Okay, let's just go professional sports. Football, basketball, baseball, majority quote unquote black people. Even in football, like I'll go to football because there's two football players right now in the NFL, and one guy's name is Hayward Bay,
Yeah.
and there's
something else.
and there's a next one that plays for the Redskins, something L. They don't have it hyphenated,
Yeah.
but they're rocking the L in the Bay.
Yeah.
And right there, I'm like, there's no way that guy doesn't. And on top of it,
but maybe they don't know you.
Maybe,
because
they
they could
just
have
carry-
just got the name
yeah,
just from
okay.
you know,
But also though, a friend of mine, close friend, he hung out with NFL players.
Yeah.
Like he's a DJ and he was in the States trying to make it, and he was hanging out with NFL players, and all of them knew about Malachi Z.
For real.
They all knew. So there's like they've studied his stuff. Like they weren't
You're
they
not just
didn't
gonna
follow
know about
along,
him. Yeah,
but
yeah.
they knew.
They knew about it.
Because when he came back at this time, this is years ago, back in our black time. So when he came back and was like had our little group, and he's coming to us, preaching to us all this Malachi Z stuff.
Yeah.
at the time we're like, yeah, we listened to it, to a certain extent. It didn't know. He never once mentioned anything with nationality, though. I could say that.
That's the point.
And that is the major thing that's
So
always
these
missing in all of
might
this
have known
stuff.
about Malachi, but what were they hearing?
But
how many of them heard about the prophet?
he may not. I don't know. I haven't read his stuff. I don't know
how many of them
I don't
was he
know to
talking
what
nationality at
extent
the
that
time?
he says nationality, but I know he mentions Moors a lot.
So you talk about Macazio?
Yeah. He mentions Moors a lot. So I don't know if you what you would study about Moors if you wouldn't find nationality linked to it, like along the line. I guess the only place you're going to find nationality linked to Moors is when you come into Noble Duality.
Yeah.
Because I've read like even these Moors books around us. None of them doesn't mention nationality. They'll all give you great history and tell you, yes, you're the American, you're the first, you're who they call the Native American. They'll tell you all of these things. Yeah. But none of them, I don't recall saying anything about nationality.
Well,
one is our fellow children.
Yeah,
that's one for sure.
It gets into nationality.
Yeah. Our fellow children in New World. Jose Pimenta Bay.
Yeah.
That for sure.
Yeah.
If any, but in no other book.
Yeah.
No other book is going to talk about nationality.
Now, coming back to Dr. Malachi, he's also a Moor, and I saw a book, right, with him, and who is El.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
It's clear, and the Noble Duality, the prophet, was in there, right, in the book, and all them with the pictures, and then I know that he's also Moor.
Yeah, I exactly, and we know he was getting there, like going to that, like he got there, but they came and attacked him before he can turn all his followers onto it, really, so they kind of shut him down. But okay, let's even, like, as we're saying, because we're trying to, this is a little part about whether these wealthy people know or not. That's why he and Malachi Z and Wesley Snipes and the next one, they were trying to buy the land. That was the whole thing they were under. Like, so I would say Wesley Snipes knows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there are some that know, and I feel that a great amount of numbers know. But I feel that, like what we said, certain people is too comfortable with what their situation is right now and don't want to, like, take on the fight.
For tax evasion or something?
Yeah, that's why.
No,
but that is why. But they hit him as he was going through
If
this.
you have the knowledge and you don't act on that knowledge, and you actually suppress it and you don't tell people about it, and you're in a position to do that,
but and then nobody's checking the people who put them on. Because they didn't just bump into that. Like, somebody put them on.
Yeah.
Like, somebody put them on to nationality. Like, yo, this is what it's about or whatever. But they didn't give them the right perspective, or they wouldn't have got them for tax evasion.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You would have went to the Constitution one time. And, case closed. You know what I mean? Like, show me something that Congress said that you can do something around here. You know? Right? How are you going to try to charge me for tax evasion?
Exactly. You know
what I mean? Right? So like they know, but what are they doing with it? You know?
Well, or the information is perverted so that he's only getting part of the story, right?
Right. And if you're getting part of the story, what's the sense?
As long as you keep that nationality out of it, you really have no clue. You know, because there's so many, like, throughout my time, there's so many, like, all of us, you've always grown up, like, not wanting to accept certain things and never knew why. Like, you didn't want to, your spirit didn't want to accept it.
That's right.
But that was the missing thing, nationality. Like, you know, like, we all, when they called for Black Power, we all jumped up, like, because we wanted to unify with our people. But exactly, there still wasn't nationality to that. Like,
right.
you know,
we were always the people who came over on the boat.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we
Like
know
yeah,
maybe
like
people
even
came
if,
over on
like
the
I
boat.
said, even to accept the term African, I never wanted to accept that, you know. And even as I check my family, like great grandparents and so forth, all I keep coming back from me is we're from here, we're from here, we're from here. As far back as I've gone throughout my family tree, is we're from here. So
Yeah.
to like as in the Americas, like the Caribbeans and stuff like that. Like, you know, I don't know. I don't know how far in this tree I would have to go to find someone from Africa.
Was that a million people or something?
Yeah, 1492. We have a million ancestors, and now until one back there.
Mm-hmm.
So the Caucasians know that they came in the book, right? Yeah, they all know that they came in the book.
Oh, they. That's the one thing I say to anybody. I'm like, they tell you their own words, their own mouth. They tell you we're not from here. The European Caucasian,
Caucasoids.
they will tell you they're not from here. You know what I'm saying? But they also try to tell you where you're from, and that's the problem.
Just give me one thing. For those who are interested, like the information is still being taught, like every shout hour at 8 o'clock, right? They have Parteract. Parteract basically like the revelation to revelation for our people who are still interested, right? And they got basic information on like for everything for us to basically transform, understanding, right? So the sites right here, I gave it to you before. Wunuku.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Who is it? Buku?
Wunuku.
Wubu?
Yeah. So NUWAUT.com. Yeah. Oh, so
WUNAUP
yeah.
.com.
NUWAUT. Yeah. So they basically break it down a lot of stuff that so-called these Caucasian people say about the medicines and everything, you know, about these hermaphrodites and everything, but actually they're really the gatekeepers, you know. So, but like, don't believe me, check it out for yourself. All right. So the site, if you're interested, look at.
Yeah. And then even on that level, right? Noju Ali said that they're the gatekeepers in 1928. You know what I mean? I'm gonna stop the European from thinking, so y'all could get your stuff together. You said
Cousin Harry said, watch the newspapers and listen to the radio. I'm going to make the Europeans tell the truth.
yeah,
And I saw last week a
he's gonna make
Watchtower.
them
I
tell
saw
the
the
truth.
Watchtower, and when I saw the Watchtower with Jesus, his complexion is changing,
Yeah.
and also his hair is changing, and he's looking more cool, right?
Get more crows.
Well, then to
Right, and
speak of Jesus,
yes, and he
not-
going on the other side, which is our side. So
Yeah.
I took the paper out to the bus and I walked in and said, "Oh, this man is changing."
But they get like they 6,000 years is over because we're in the sun cycle now, so they can't hire nothing no longer.
Yeah. But I was even showing the brothers today. They're in Europe in the cold, can't live in the cold even. So it's not just, you know, like when it implodes, you know, you're getting it from all sides. You're not getting it from a one side, you know.
And they're still getting snatched up by different beings. So it's
I know. As Drew, they call him Professor Drew
Yeah.
because he was a metaphysician. So like everything
Yeah,
he was
that
doing
too.
had like triple meanings and stuff like that. And like that statement also, them being the gatekeeper in like the mystery system and Kemet, the gatekeeper is Anubis, Empu, the god, right?
Yeah.
Anubis,
Anubis,
right?
yeah.
Anubis, right? Now they actually in Christianity they misinterpret that and they call he's actually kind of like representing Satan, right? But Satan is because Anubis in they would call the month of or the month of January Anubis is like Capricorn, who's all know. So Capricorn's governing planet is Saturn, where they got Saturn from because Saturn in the zodiac is the tester. and that's where Satan means tester in most of the languages. And so it's something that was demonized, but really just a test. So Saturn is the furthest planet that you can see with your naked eye, and that's the gatekeeper. You have to get through that to get to the, in astrology, the inner planets, which are the further ones, which are actually the higher ones, right? So it being the center is like being this middle passage. You got to get through them. And actually, so Annabeth is the key keeper. This is why Lucifer, whatever, is the angel of light and is the one that you have to pass the test, his test, to get to the kingdom, right? So it's not bad. The ancients didn't have a devil bad and a God good. There's no such thing.
And they're saying that devil is in yourself. It's the lower self.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that you use as a test to get to the higher self.
I also interpret like when you hear like all the prophets or most of them when they go through that 40 days and 40 nights thing, like Jesus did, Buddha, and Buddha means to become enlightened, right? So as in so yeah, everybody else is just a monk. You're just a monk until you reach enlightenment, and then you earn the title Buddha. But through their, and as you know, with the story of Jesus, when he does his 40 days and 40 nights, they tell you how he's facing all of these temptations, like food, women, whatever. Like supposedly Satan is trying to tempt him. Now, as we know, like, you know, Satan being the lower chakra, and also I like the flesh, basically. So these are all things that like to eat, to all of those things are temptations of the flesh. So it wasn't like, I'd say Jesus was already ascended before he was even nailed to the cross. When he came back from his 40 days, he's already ascended. That was his whole 40 days thing was about that. So, and you'll see it throughout all of those prophets who reached that. I only know of Buddha and Jesus for that. I don't know of what Muhammad did or anybody else. But yeah.
And that's the thing. So until the government, we won't go home until we learn government. He says. That's what you just read?
It's just the trust.
No, yeah.
Jolie said something about the European, until we learn government, the European won't go home.
Yes.
So like, we're supposed to learn from them.
And with that, I also say that everything they do, like how you say we have the republic and they put democracy over it. But when you look at in the dictionary and you find democracy, it will say republic. So everything that they do, remember, we taught them.
Yeah.
So they're doing what they're using. They may have twisted it to make it this corporate thing or whatever, but that's why we have to relearn it from them, because it is still your knowledge.
Exactly.
You're just not, they're the ones practicing it.
And what they've done is they've burnt all our knowledge, right?
They're using it.
Not
Like,
necessarily.
they may have,
information that they were talking about burning these books.
yeah, let's say
They can't understand.
you could say that they wrote the book over, and then, so a European guy wrote it and then burnt the original.
Or what they did was the book stayed the same and everything talking about you, but then they made you think that you're something else.
Yeah.
So when you read the book, you're not, that's not
Not
me.
in there.
Exactly.
You're not in there, but you're in the books.
Yeah.
But most of them that we're in are in the Spanish written books and the Portuguese written books. At the most documented point in European history is through there. But that's why Jolie says learn those languages. Learn that, because, and I know a sister that was going to York and she was taking a Swahili course and she dropped the Swahili course because she ended up learning that all this, the so-called slaves, you know what I mean, that era between 1492 and afterwards, most of the histories are in Spanish. Hence why Ben Yakinen went to study there, why Van Serder, all these, you go to Spain to study when you want to study history. European history, world history, they went to there. Present day Spain. And that's where all the
and even the Bible, it's last, as they say, it's been through many languages, but the last languages that it was in, like as it came into English, was from the Latin. Like I didn't even know, I found the Latin or Spanish Latin Bible in my house. My son actually asked me, "Why you got a Spanish Bible?" I was like, "I don't know." It's like I don't know where that came from.
The hip hop True Master,
Yeah.
hip hop producer True Master, just went to Spain, and they came back with what was it, truckload of just stuff, just stuff, like just this eggs, like this endless. I don't know, but it's just from this hemisphere. We're not gonna identify with that because we don't know that that's us.
They were saying, I think that's what they said. They said they changed our identity from Moors to Spanish, right?
Wow,
Some of the
Spaniards.
The Spaniards, right?
Yeah, that's what's the hide. So anything that had any Moorish remnants in
And
it.
that's why when I went to the
called
library, I
Spaniard.
was asking for the Moors. They told me to put the Spanish.
Yeah,
right.
The Spanish.
I found it.
You know what's up?
So now I realize that they were really directing me to the right spot, but they named it something else.
Yeah.
Right? And then I sort of rejected that. And what they're saying is Spanish is really Moorish Latin.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah, Latin, all those Latin is Latin, Portuguese, Spanish.
This land is your land. Going back to trust and all that. This is all relative. This land is your land. Written by Amir Heru Ranisi L. So that's Grand Governor Heru's book. Moors in Atlantis, in Atlanta territory. It's page 42. Our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, 1913 to 1929, our first supreme executive ruler, once stated, in order to change the people, you have to change their literature. This is the goal, O noble Moorish family of the Americas. We must re-educate the people as to the truth of their heritage. We must use all mediums of expression in order to convey this message. This mission is for all serious Moors who are fearless, or in the literal words of our prophet, Moors are men upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow the prophet to a destiny which is not uncertain or unknown. Refer to Moorish literature. For the extremely serious, it is our duty to master the national and divine aspects of our nation in order to birth a Moorish national and divine government of our own, theocratic constitutional monarchy. We Moorish grand sheiks, diplomats, consuls, and ambassadors cannot expect the average citizen to master the intricacies of legal structure, diplomacy, and international law. This is the duty of all officials within the Moorish government, which at this point is pre-provisional. However, with the assistance of Allah, Oludumare, the Father of the universe, known to the uninitiated as God, a new grand body of third and fourth generation Moors are coming forth with their eyes already open, willing to carry out the law as faithful servants of Allah through the Prophet who was sent to them, us, in the Americas. Noble Drew Ali is our Grand Vicar, since he was appointed to his post by the Creator of all. Through said divine authority, the Prophet crowned we the Moors of the Americas as the nobility, an incarnation of an ancient caste of a previous era, the rulers of the Moorish Empire, rebirthed as a holy priesthood of sheiks, whose duty is to build a state of heaven upon the earth by executing the law. What law? Universal law that truly governs all events. Why all this talk of divine concepts within this national demonstration of text? It is because rights are not derived from man. They are derived from Creator of all names inclusive. This must exist for rights to be unalienable. According to Black's Law Dictionary 7th edition, home rule is defined as a state legislative provision or action allocating a measure of autonomy to a local government conditional on its acceptance of certain terms. Autonomy is the right of self-government. Heard's revised statute left open a window of opportunity for the creation of an autonomous Moorish government whose only equal on the planet is the Vatican. Read that again. Autonomy is the right of self-government. Heard's revised statute left open a window of opportunity for the creation of an autonomous Moorish government whose only equal on the planet is the Vatican. Here is what Heard's revised statute says, and we will go through it slowly, pursuant to chapter 32, paragraph 164, section 35.
So the organic temple, they are going off of Heard's vibe?
Yeah, right? And then for this, we're going to go to our authority that Noble Drew Ali was holding up when he said, take this and save your people. Holding up our authority, and our authority at the bottom, just like the stuff that wasn't read in every meeting and all that stuff. There's something down here that says, see Heard's revised statute, chapter 32, 36, or appointed or warden's vestryman or whatever name they may adopt.
Can I just ask the question? Is Heard's thing, what is this? Because I know we talked about it before.
It's just a book of just a book of statutes that deal with corporate activity and the governance of stuff.
So Drew Ali, when they're incorporating the temple in 1928, when it was a Moorish Holy Temple of Science, now it's adopted a corporate title, the Moorish Science Temple of America. That's the document, right? That's on the back of it, and on the top it says our authority, right?
But it's the Heard's.
And it was done. It
References,
references.
It makes reference to
how it was filed in the process of it.
Yeah.
But that is what we here in America. That's what we. That's a governing sort of instrument.
Well, no, it's just that the format in which he set up the temple in here. So instead of these people were arguing and thinking that against each other that he registered it in the government and that the government, said, yes, you're a corporate temple now, and they're fighting over the copyrights for that. When he didn't even do that, because what Heard's right of statue is, and he's going to go into.
That's what I was saying. Yeah. As you read it, then he didn't explain it.
Right, so Heard's right statute, chapter 32, paragraph 164, section 35. Any church, congregation, or society formed for the purpose of religious worship may become incorporated in the manner following: by electing or appointing, according to its usages or customs, at any meeting held for that purpose, 2 or more of its members as trustees, wardens, or vestrymen, or such other officers whose powers and duties are similar to those of trustees, as shall be agreeable to the usages and customs, rules, and regulations of such congregation, church, or society. Right, so that's the first part. Right, and then that part is, we do solemnly swear at a meeting, the members, Noble Drew Ali, Mila Eel, Small Bay, Lovett Bay, Foreman Bay, came together
to make exactly what that is.
Exactly, right?
So they did this. It's like they came together. It's not going somewhere and register.
No, it's by coming together and create and by verbally saying.
Right. Yeah, just having this.
It became an entity.
By electing or appointing according to its usage or customs, the meeting held for that purpose, 2 or more members as trustees, etc. Right, may adopt a corporate name, and upon the filing of an affidavit, as hereinafter provided, it shall be and remain a body politic and corporate by the name so adopted.
Right.
And then that part is the Moorish Holy Temple of Science adopted as its corporate name, Moorish Science Temple of America. And then he told Moors, go see Herds of Rights statute. And then when you go to Herds of Rights statute, you're going to get this, and it's going to let you know exactly what our authority is.
Yeah. Right. And
I'm finding a weird parallel, though. In essence, this is what the European has done to us, in the sense that we are in our natural person, but what they've done is they put a body on us, or a jacket on us, the corporate name, right? We are doing, in this herds thing, we are, let's say, the body, the religious body would be the Moorish science.
Yeah.
And then what we got to do to follow that, to follow the same sort of corporate outline, we have then taken on a corporate jacket.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the corporate is not the problem. It's that.
No, and I know it's not, but it's the problem for us. But what I'm saying, the parallel is that they've used that corporate body on us.
Right. So we have to have a corporate body
to subjugate us, right? Without our knowledge, and
Right.
taxed us and done all this stuff.
Right.
Now we can turn around
and have a corporate body to
protect ourselves.
Exactly.
Sorry, that's what I just had that feeling.
Right.
Because that's what they've been doing. Right. They're using our.
And just like you're saying, we have something to protect ourselves, right? I.e., embassy.
All right.
Consulate. And then that's what the Moorish Science Temple of America is. Whether it's incorporated, whether it's a religious organization, whether it's a religious corporation, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's whatever, right? The objective of it doesn't change from it being a body politic. I mean, you have self-autonomy to do what you have to do. Once you have the prophet up front, and then you're following the protocols.
And what they're then doing is telling you the most powerful other body in this world,
the Vatican.
And that's what we would be equal with.
Yeah.
Because they're doing this.
Yeah, because not because they have some type of power, because this is what they're using.
That's right. And this is what
other
Nouveau Drew Ali was trying to do.
Exactly.
And that's what happened when he didn't do this, or when they killed him. Right. That was the year that the Vatican created itself. And then what they've done is they co-opted using the same divine nature. They used their falsehood and created this false prophet.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Wow. Right. That's the game right there.
Oh.
What?
I'm not happy. You said I wouldn't be, right?
What do we have in this paragraph? We have a provision for a religious body, theocratic, whether church, congregation, or society, who, according to its own usages and customs, can elect trustees, wardens, or vestrymen agreeable to the usages and customs, rules, and regulations. Said religious body can choose a corporate name by filing an affidavit and can exist and remain as a body politic and corporate by the name said group adopted. The concept of a religious body is prime for a Moorish government because a Moorish government wouldn't be secular. It would have a spiritual center based on Moorish science, not standard Orthodox religions. The religious body can be viewed as a society, since church or congregation wouldn't suit the purpose of a Moorish government. It may be styled according to its own usages and customs, meaning Moorish culture can be introduced and there exist provisions to be self-defining. Said group can elect its own trustees, wardens, or vestrymen. Warden merely means a person in charge of something. It is a secular post. Vestryman means an assembly of the minister, church wardens, and parishioners to conduct church business. It also mentioned other officers whose powers and duties are similar to those of trustees. This is where Prophet stepped in and introduced the lawful Moorish designation of sheikh, meaning elder. A trustee is defined as one who, having legal title to property, holds it in trust for the benefit of another, and owes a fiduciary duty to that beneficiary. The sheikhs were the trustees of the Moorish nation. Fiduciary is defined in Black's law as one who owes to another the duties of good faith, trust, confidence, and candor. Candor means honesty or directness. As you can see, this is the standard the sheiks were to be held up to. After the trustees were appointed, said group could choose a corporate name, which is a name that business would be transacted under. However, it would be still rooted in the autonomous ecclesiastical provisions of the Heard Revised Statute. An affidavit was to be filed with the county, which is an act of a sovereign, not a petition asking permission for the privilege to do something. After these steps were taken, said group would be considered a body politic. Body politic is defined in Black's law as a group of people regarded as a political rather than private sense and organized under a single government authority. So according to this one paragraph, 164 section 35, the Moorish Science Temple of America, duly chartered and organized by way of Heard's Revised Statute, is an autonomous ecclesiastical political government whose trustees are styled as sheiks, held to the highest standards. Due to limited space, we will paraphrase some more of Heard's Revised Statute, chapter 32. Upon incorporation of the said group, any personal or real property held by any person or trustees shall immediately vest or confer ownership of property and be subject to its control and be used, mortgaged, sold, or conveyed the same as if it had been conveyed by such corporation by deed. But no conveyance or mortgage can be made to affect or destroy the intent or effect of any agent, legacy, or donation. Legacy is defined in Black's law as a gift, will, especially of personal property and often money. Any group formed for religious purposes under the Heard's Revised Statute for the incorporation of religious societies may receive land, by gift, legacy, or purchase, and may erect and build thereon houses, buildings, or other improvements as it may deem necessary for the convenience or comfort of said group, church, congregation, or society, and may lay out and maintain thereon a burial ground. Later on, in this section 42, it speaks about how 10 acres of any acquired land will not be taxed. Keep in mind, the usage of Heard's Revised Statute by the MST of A was a step in the right direction of sovereignty. We of the third and fourth generation of Moors must follow through with a completely autonomous, sovereign, self-sufficient government recognized by the governments of the earth as a part of the family of nations. H-U-R-D-S. Yeah, Heard's. Heard's Revised Statute. Right? So, from there now, we're going to go into this email from like a few years ago, well, 1999. January 8th, 1999. From Frank Louis L. Bay, trustee. Islam. May this notice greet you well and wakeful, for the wakeful die not. Whereas those who are heedless are as if dead already. If you are not aware, this notice is to make you aware of the said trust's existence, its benefits to you, and to invite you to participate in its performance. As Moorish Americans, quote-unquote blacks, or quote-unquote African Americans, are the primary beneficiary to an extremely extensive fee simple estate conveyed to us in an express trust that was duly created in 1928 by the truster Noble Drew Ali for our economical, political, and social redemption and regeneration. The said trust was duly created in conjunction with the Statute of Frauds and Perjuries and the Parole Evidence Rule and the legal requirements of the state of Illinois pursuant to the laws and Constitution of the United States. That is to say, the said trust was lawfully created and is readily verifiable. The land or fee simple estate actually conveyed to us in the express trust is a legacy of our forefathers, our birthright. According to the deed of conveyance, it compromises the entire continental United States of America along other territories. It was put in the legal institution known as an express trust to safeguard it and thereby duly conveyed to us. I am the duly appointed trustee. I have actual possession of the title deed thereto, and accordingly, I as trustee have initiated the express trust performance. Examine the accompanying pretrial statement filed in the case by the trustee July 22nd, 1998. Therein are described some of the primary issues tried before the court December 17th, 1998, issues directly related to you as a Moorish American, quote-unquote black, quote-unquote African, etc. This is important to us, not only because it is our social security for the 21st century, it is who we are, it is our vast estate, our divine destiny, it's God's will. Characters of our vast estate. The quality of the estate the Prophet Noble Drew Ali as truster put in the express trust he created for the Moors in 1928 is a fee simple estate, sometimes called fee simple absolute. The term fee simple defines the largest estate in land known to the law and necessarily implies absolute dominion over the land. There can be only one state in fee simple to a particular tract of land. An estate in fee simple may be had either in corporeal or incorporeal hereditaments. A grant of the fee simple, however, carries with it everything within or belonging to the land in the absence of exemption or reservation. Since an estate in fee simple implies absolute sovereignty over the land, the power of alienation is necessarily and inseparably incidental thereto, and an unlimited condition of restraint of alienation attached to such an estate is void. In some jurisdiction, the definition of a fee simple estate is statutory. Some of the authorities define the estate from the standpoint of defining the owner or holder thereof, and likewise disclose an unlimited duration of a fee simple interest by stating that a tenant in fee simple is one who has lands or tenements to hold to him and his heirs forever. In the United States, the common law rule requiring words of inheritance in a conveyance to pass a fee simple has never been applied to conveyance to a trustee. The estate taken by a trustee is measured by the trust, and not by the presence or absence of words of inheritance. Hence, in any particular grant to a trustee, if a fee simple title is necessary to the performance of the trust, a fee simple passes, even though the word heirs was not used in the conveyance. Except in one or two states properly in the various American jurisdictions, by virtue of state constitutional provision, organic territorial acts incorporated into the legal system of the states, subsequently organized, statutes and decisions of the courts, is determined to be held allodially, in absolute and direct dominion, subject only to escheat in the event of failure of successors in ownership. So the land is only able to be escheated if the heirs or the successors don't claim it. That's the only way that escheating can go on.
Is there a time limit on that?
Escheating can go on forever if the owner doesn't make a claim.
No, but I meant, is there a time limit? Yeah, I guess it's the same question. So, okay. So my question is reversed then. So in reality, whenever we want to reclaim it, it's ours.
Simple as that. It's sitting there, waiting.
So can I ask a question? Why hasn't any of, let's say, the older temples, let's say down in southern state or southern America, why haven't they done this?
Brother, Because if they give you the mandate, now they can't rob you.
Who gives you the mandate?
The heads, the Moors from wherever that were supposed to be doing this from 1929 after the Prophet passed.
They give what?
If they give the people the mandate,
right?
If they give the people the authority,
You're saying if they give
then
them
they can't hustle the people because the people have it too.
Well, yeah. I mean, this was to save us all.
Exactly. So somebody can't claim it.
And what's happened is that there's been agents who come in and make sure that.
Right. There's people in turbans and fezzes on with buttons say I'm a Moorish American that sold out the Prophet.
So I mean, this could be left to us to do this. I mean,
if Noble Jawali is the truster, and then the trustee, right, is saying, well, it's fee simple, absolute, express trust, heirs, i.e. beneficiaries, and then the trust book talking about the beneficiaries, and the trustee's job is just to say, here beneficiaries, there's your stuff, here's all the papers that say that it is what it is, which is what all this is, just letting you know what it is.
And we're the beneficiaries.
And we're the beneficiaries of it. That's why Noble Jawali said, last thing he said, if you don't do anything else, that's like we started, proclaim your nationality. If you don't do anything else, just do that at least. So when it does kick in, at least you'll be nationalized, and you can just jump in, you can just slot yourself in.
Because what the corporate entity is trying to do is continue to hold you to that straw figure. That straw.
I'm saying that
They're cheating. Yeah. Because we're not making a claim.
So they're trying to keep you from knowing who you are. So
they're keeping you from going through the door, and the door's open.
Right. Exactly. So are they really keeping
you? Don't go through there. Don't go through there.
Yeah. And we're like, okay, no. Right. And the door's just sitting there open. And then you can see on the other side that it's just lush land, and it goes on for 80 million miles, but
no blacks allowed in return.
Yeah, no blacks allowed, and then nobody goes through the door.
Okay. Because at that point, we tied ourselves to black, which is death.
Right. And not having any honor. Right. So it goes on. After the Prophet created the express trust, he then held the meeting, and at the meeting, he told the Moors, I brought you everything it takes to save a nation. Take it and save yourself. In which he was holding up the Moorish Holy Quran and our authority. He was holding up the Quran and holding up our authority and said, take it and save yourself.
Which is that.
Can we go to the importance of that too? Well, we've been dealing with a lot of the importance of our authority part. But the importance of the Quran is to fulfill you, as in like what they call the
baptism,
the 5 parts of the human or whatever.
Right.
Like, because one of them is you have to have your own holy book.
Yeah, you have to have
your own religion.
Yeah.
So black, you already have 3/5. You're 3/5, and you're missing the 2/5.
Missing the 2/5.
And that's why he brings. That's why the Quran is in the next head.
Right.
Besides everything else that's in the Quran.
Exactly. Constitutional guarantees. A vested right within the meaning of the provision that vested rights are within the protection of constitutional guarantees has been defined as an immediate fixed right of present enjoyment or a present fixed right of future enjoyment. A right is vested when there is an ascertained person with a present right to present for future enjoyment. If a right in property is actually vested, constitutional guarantees protect it from such retrospective legislation that would impair it. Inasmuch as ejectment is a possessory action, the plaintiff must show a right of possession that is present or immediate, as well as a legal estate in the property sought to be recovered. And unless both facts are established, the defendant must prevail. Anything which deprives a plaintiff of his present right to possession will deprive him of the remedy of ejectment. The right of entry, not the entry itself, the right of possession, not actual possession, are the essentials of an action in ejectment. Generally speaking, whatever show that the plaintiff is not entitled to the immediate possession of the premises claimed constitutes a good and valid defense in an action to recover possession. Rightful possession is a defense in ejectment. Since the plaintiff in an action of ejectment must, as a general rule, recover, if a recover may be had, on the strength of his own title, and not from the weakness or want of title of his adversary, the defendant, unless stopped from converting the plaintiff's title, may rest on his possession and attack the title under which the plaintiff claims. The defendant in ejectment can never defend his possession against the plaintiff upon a title in himself by which he could not recover the possession if he was not out and the plaintiff in possession. In accordance with the rule that courts of law take no cognizance of equitable estates and deal only with legal titles, it is held that in the absence of statute to the contrary, the plaintiff in an action of ejectment or other similar action must, whenever the action depends upon the title and not upon some relation or agreement between the parties affecting the right of possession, have a legal title to the property. The possession of himself cannot avail as a basis of recovery. If the plaintiff has only equities, they must be presented and considered on the equity side of the court. The legal title is all that is in issue, and such title, when ascertained, whether in the plaintiff or in the defendant, draws to the judgment of the court. And then we'll copy this up for everybody. Right, so now I ask you to read the trust chart and see how it unfolds. The express trust. Written chart. There are 6 instruments used by the trustee to establish the legal assistance of the express trust created by the truster, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, in 1928 for the benefit of Moorish Americans. The instruments are a certified copy of our authority, a Torrent system registration, an abstract of title made directly from the Recorder of Deeds Office of Cook County, Illinois. Then see Smith-Hurd, Illinois Annotated Statutes, Chapter 32, Section 165, 170, and 182. Under Article 4, Section 1 of the Constitution of the United States, this instrument must be given full faith and credit by the Circuit Court for Prince George's County, Maryland, as official public acts of another sovereign state. This deed has been on record for 30 years, and coming from a natural and unreasonable official custody, therefore it comes under the ancient document rule. So we'll stop there for a sec. This certified copy of our authority, if it's identified as a deed and not title, it's fraud.
And that's what they have, deeds.
Because that's what they have, deeds. And then they give you the deed, but you're still paying a fee, even though you're supposedly paid it off and you have the deed.
So do we have the title?
Right?
Is the title there? Or the title's ours?
The title is in the name.
Our name.
Right? That's where the authority comes from.
Right.
What's your name? El, Bay, Al, Ali, or Day. So, alright, so you obviously have the authority. So now what do you want to do with it now? Title's not paper first. Right? The temple is not a building first.
That's right.
Right? Divine and national movement. Holy and divine movement.
That's why it's a lowly of title, not a lowly of deed.
Deed. Title. Right?
Everything is topsy-turvy.
Exactly. Right? So 2. A sealed copy of the Moorish Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America prepared by the truster Prophet Noble Drew Ali. In this sealed instrument, specifically chapter 47, is the actual deed of conveyance.
So read that again.
A sealed copy of the Moorish Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, prepared by the truster Prophet Noble Drew Ali. In this sealed instrument, specifically chapter 47, is the deed of conveyance. Chapter 47 is the actual conveyance part of the deed. Section 1 through 7 contain the premises of the deed. Section 6, the original grant is made to the ancestors, Moabites, of the present true owners, Moorish Americans. In section 7, the truster gives a description of their estate by metes and bounds. Also see sections 10 through 17. This is equivocally a fee simple estate. So if it's a fee simple estate, that means it's absolute. And if it's absolute, then there's no way that it's a deed. It has to be titled. But this is from the trustee.
Is that from the term fee simple?
Fee simple. Fee simple absolute.
But what does that actually mean, fee simple? Just a term?
That's what we go back to. Right, governor here.
Is that the dictionary?
No, that's not the thing.
That's not a good dictionary.
No,
But
I
in
know
this
that.
one, they're trying to say
Not a
deed
lot.
and title are the same thing.
Oh, you're reading
Yeah.
deed?
Was it that I read it?
Yeah, you did.
So, I mean, it's not really important. We don't have to,
Yeah. Okay, right. The term, the quantity of the estate the Prophet Noble Drew Ali as truster put in the express trust he created for the Moors is a fee simple estate, sometimes called fee simple absolute. The term fee simple defines the largest estate in land known to the law and necessarily implies absolute dominion over the land. There can be only one estate in fee simple to a particular tract of land. An estate in fee simple may be held either in corporeal or incorporeal hereditaments. A grant of the fee simple, however, carries with it everything within or belonging to the land in the absence of exception or reservation. Since an estate in fee simple implies absolute sovereignty over the land, the power of alienation is necessarily and inseparably incidental thereto, and an unlimited condition of restraint of alienation attached to such an estate is void. So, if the fee simple is the largest estate in land known to law.
I think what I'm getting from it is it's just the term. So the term fee simple is the term that they give for
this
a piece
type
of
of
land that is absolute,
right,
and that's it.
right.
I guess meaning fee simple, however you want, in my mind, of however I want to look at it.
Yeah, well,
If there's no fee, let's say, as an example. Right?
Maybe, yeah,
Fee simple,
right. Or
right?
just, the fees waived or whatever.
That's right.
Or whatever. Right.
Simple fee,
Right.
or something.
Right.
And then it's saying that you cannot be alienated. Is that what it further goes on to say?
Right.
That it doesn't matter even if you're not there. That
Right.
doesn't mean that you've lost
can't
it.
claim it.
And you know what? Just saying that, because a lot of talk about lottery winning and stuff has been going on.
Right.
Where like they're talk to lawyers and say like if you know, like when people do the lottery in a group, and like if you're not there, like if you called and said, yeah, you know, I'm in, and then that person's supposed to, you know, spend an extra $3 to put you in on the ticket, then just because that's the same situation, you're not there, but you are still part of it. Like, so when the winnings come, you still should get the same cut as everyone else. Mm-hmm. Like, even though you weren't presently, like how we're all here and everybody throws in their $3, mm-hmm. and the next man calls and says, yo, I'm throwing $3 for me. Somebody does that. That doesn't, like, just because we win now, you can't say, hey,
you got
like 2 of that is mine and that guy's cut out. Like, you know,
you're saying that the very fact that you're part of the group,
yes,
gives you access to the winning.
Yeah, so even your absolute, like, yeah, and then it comes back to what, like, exactly, like if you want to look at these words, like, it's free, like the fees waived, and then it comes back to like what the prophet says: just declare, do not declare your nationality.
That's all you have to do, yo.
Yeah,
it's simple.
Like, I've already waived the fee.
Yeah,
you know? All you gotta do is just join up.
Straight up. Yeah. Act 6 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. This is number 3. Act 6 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America, recorded on page 8 of the Holy Quran, Questions for Moorish Americans. This instrument and act clearly identify the true owners of the land or trust property described in chapter 47, the actual deed of conveyance. These are the words of the truster identifying the beneficiaries of the trust property and describing their land and great estate. This act and instrument identify one of the primary terms of the trust. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and as mentioned above, it positively identifies the beneficiaries. So, the exact same thing that you're saying, right? If you don't do anything else, declare your nationality, because I set something up for you, but the only way you're gonna have access to it is if you proclaim your nationality.
The last thing you said was, once you do that, it positively identifies the beneficiary.
Right, yeah. Yeah, for real. Straight up. For nothing. Wave feet.
Bow. Firm.
And here is a reading in here said, this is not a social organization. It is divine and a national movement. By you being born here doesn't make you a citizen. One must proclaim his nationality to be recognized as a citizen. Look what I have on now. This was handed down to me by the government, which represents the royal prince. And he was saying that he was mantled. He had been mantled. They call him mantled.
4. The Truster's Edict, recorded in the Moorish Literature Pamphlet, page 11. He issued at the 1928 convention announcing his authority and power. In the first clause of the second paragraph is where the trustee derives his authority and power, and it is directly from the truster, Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Specifically, he said, all authority and power of the Moorish Science Temple of America is vested in the Prophet Noble Jew Ali and those he appoints to act as his supreme body. This is positive law. Although the truster had to repose the legal title in the trustee did not have to be named. Notwithstanding, Frank Louis L. Bay was designated trustee in accordance with the manner in which the said trust was created. In other words, a trustee may be indicated and assume responsibility as such without the express designation. 76 AM Jurors, 2nd edition, section 119, page 362. That is one of the advantages of the trust institution. Technical or particular words or phrases are not required or essential to the manifestation of an intention of a settler to create a trust. Knowledge of the express trust existence was reposed in the trustee Frank Louis L. Bay, enabling him through study, revelation, and action to discover it in 1978. In 1981, he was delivered a certified copy of the trust instrument with muniments of title, muniments of title, and accepted them. Thus, the legal title vested in him. However, Illinois law, legal delivery, and vesting the legal title in the trustee in this particular case relates back to August 1st, 1928, the date of the instrument. Therefore, by judicial interpretation, the vesting of the title in Frank Louis L. Bay as trustee not only relates back to the date the truster Prophet Noble Dwali recorded the deed, before he said title, right? August 1st, 1928, but his appointment is made thereby the truster himself. This is how Frank Louis L. Bay received his appointment as trustee directly from the truster Prophet Noble Dwali, even though he wasn't born at the time, nor was he born before the truster passed. This appointment makes Frank Louis L. Bay today the only living appointee of the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America and truster Prophet Noble Dwali. The truster Prophet Noble Dwali, according to the deed, August 1st, 1928, after that, he called a meeting with the Moors, and at the meeting held up the Holy Quran and our authority and said, "Take these and save yourself." See Oral Statement 1 in Instrument 6, Oral Statements of Prophet Noble Dwali. Thereby the truster, as Prophet Noble Dwali, manually passed the titles, legal and equitable, to the Moors. By divesting himself and giving up control, the legal title vested in the trustee and the equitable interest in the beneficiaries through their real enjoyment was to take place in the future. The truster Prophet Noble Dwali said, "It will take 50 years to find out what I brought you." Knowledge of the express trust existence was reposed in the trustee, enabling him to discover it in 1978. And in 1981, he was delivered a certified copy of the instrument and minimits of title and accepted. 5. Acts 4 and 5 of the Divine Constitution of the Moorish Science Temple of America. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live life accordingly. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. 6. The oral statements and prophecies of Prophet Noble Dwali, founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America and truster of the Express Trust, was created in 1928 for Moorish Americans. Especially see Oral Statement 1, 120, and 230. I don't know if you have those ones over there. 120, 120, and 230.
Okay, I brought your nationality, your religion, and title to your vast estate. What do you want me to do? Kill you? And how much? 130, how much?
230.
230.
230? Do something else. 230. Okay. All nations will turn against the United States one.
And it's happening.
And it's happening.
So I'm going to stop the Europeans from thinking if 2 or 3 of them get together on something, they will go back and tear it up.
You have the ones there that you're marking? Yeah, so we're just gonna go through some of the
And he said, don't call your brother nigger. When your brother do something bad, call him a
dirty more. That one's hard. That one's hard. But some of them, yo.
And he said, men, a time will come, men are run for their life. And the women will be running them down. So.
Is that what it said? I thought everyone's smiling. Running away now.
Like saying, drop the bomb,
Why
yo.
not? Because
You need to thin out the numbers. Drop the bomb.
He said, no accommodate when you won't see no men at all. And when you do see a Moor or you see a man,
You're
you
gonna
know,
run. Yes, and you would be glad to see him, you know.
your child will come home and say, Mommy, I saw a
I
man.
saw a man
today."
I saw a man today. You know?
He said all the best Moors are still in church.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was back then.
And he said also, take a good look at me so that you will know me when you see me. And he also said, when you see me, don't speak to me unless I speak to you first.
Every word that I speak is spirit. You Moors better heed. The climate is going to change. The cold weather would be in the south and the warm weather would be in the north. Yeah, right now. And this is 1913, 1929 that he said this.
Start telling you greenhouse and
About
shit.
time, you know?
It's not a safe place to be.
You know, yeah. Right.
That's funny thing, the Caucasians, they do know, you know?
They know
They
you.
know,
They know because they got his stuff.
everything that he has said or done, everything he has said or done, as they stopped us from doing it, they did it. But they did it and
In
put
their own way, yeah,
their
in
skies
their
on
twist,
it, like
yeah,
their
their twist on it.
democracy on it, or everything.
Or they're implementing on what needs to happen from them.
Yeah.
Well, yes,
They're
yes.
taking their cues. They're like, okay, if it's not
Yeah.
happening yet, let's push it.
Yes.
To do that.
Moors that were in the temple during the lifetime of the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali said that when the Holy Prophet came to town, you would have to go to the temple early to get a seat. And you could not get a seat in the front row because the foreign Muslims would be sitting in the front row to see and hear the Prophet.
Yes, and even in here, he said, don't let no foreign Muslims speak.
Yeah,
When they
on the
come in
rostrum, yeah. Right.
Yes, it's right.
And he said to make sure you got food. He
Mhm.
said it's all poison.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was back then when
Yeah.
people were still eating pretty good.
Yeah.
Put up the food.
At the first convention in 1928, Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, the garment that I have on represents power. And if you obey my voice, you will have power with me. I am going to free you, though it's hard, because of your mixture, which brings about many different spirits.
Yes, yes. He said we mix with all kinds of things.
When you fail to hear my voice, you are lost. It is against the law to stand up in any audience intoxicated.
Yes.
The leader is not to stay out all night giving earnings away to someone else.
I love it.
You who are heads of temples, it is easy for you to destroy the influence of the temple. Now lace up your shoes and get right. You stop figuring out your way, how your salvation shall come. Just follow me. You can say one thing, Moors. You have made a start for the kingdom. If you want success, you must follow the Prophet. Husbands, take care of your wives and families. Wives, keep your homes and children clean. I have done more than you think. I want you to help me by your good deeds of living at home and abroad. It is to your good not your lips, trying to be in the front seat and everything, always standing in my face. Moors, be careful of your steps. Leaders of temples must be careful how they walk. They must be an example. I am not asleep. It will take you Moors a long time to find out what I did today. When you all go home, don't start no stuff. Or I'll be right there listening to you. This is no social organization. This is a divine and national movement. By you being born here doesn't make you a citizen. Look what I have on. Now this was handed to me by the government. It represents the royal prince. The holy prophet wore a mantle of power. I have mended the broken wires and have connected them to the higher powers. Islam.
Yes, he said the Moors watch dog is not a dog but an
Elephant.
elephant. And he said sometimes we say we want some pure meat to eat. Right? He said no one is going to kill a camel for you to eat over here. You gotta go to Mecca or something to get a camel. With meat.
Yeah, yo, so there we go. So we're gonna get out, we're gonna get Brother Tesba to send out the Concise Trustee Handbook. If anybody out there wants the Concise Trustee Handbook, send an email to Moorish Guide Newspaper at gmail.com. Moorish Guide Newspaper at gmail.com, and then we're gonna try to get it up on the site too. Wise, Concise, yeah, newspaper.
It's all one?
Yeah, at Gmail. At gmail.com. See? Yeah. So yeah, yo. So that's alright, greetings. Peace, fam. We'll connect, yo. Yeah. I don't know, it depends if I have ship or not. Huh? No, it depends on if I have ship. If I have second ship. Right, man. Yeah, yo. So, anything else? Any more comments or any more emotional outbursts or nothing? Let it out. Let it out. Blow the steam. Blow the steam. Islam, Mars. Let's close out and give thanks to everybody on Ustreamland tuning in. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Mother and Father of the universe.
Allah, the Mother and Father of the universe.
Mother and Father of love.
Mother and Father of love.
Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice. Allah is our protector.
Allah is our protector.
Our guide.
And
our salvation. By night. And by day. Through His holy prophet. Noble Drew Ali. Ashe. Islam. Islam, Moors.